Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. And ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons, and science is now catching up. But this isn't even new science. We're talking about the science of quantum physics, which is actually over 100 years old. So by now, as a humanity, as a society, we should know that we are all connected. We are all one. So what you do to another person, you are literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Waking Up in 5D with Maureen St. Germain. Thank you, Maureen, for being my guest on Awake to Oneness Radio.
My pleasure. It's a real pleasure to be part of your network.
Thank you. Thank you. Please share. Now, I discovered you. I watched you recently on Gaia TV, but I also knew a little bit about you from a year ago when I actually helped produce a show that you were a guest on over a year ago. Will you please share your journey with our listeners?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was born into a family of women who could connect. And from an early childhood, my mother would tell stories of things that she knew ahead of time. So this was treated as common, even though we were devout Catholics. It wasn't, getting information from other worldly realms was not disrespected. And then when I was in my 20s, I remember my folks giving me a book that was personally autographed by Jose Silva. Mm-hmm. And they had been to a workshop of his. And so my father and mother both went, and my father was very good at it. But one of the things is when they examined the body, they were like practicing. One woman that he was reading her field, he could see she had cancer. Oh. And it so upset him because she didn't know.
Oh.
And he did not want to be the person to tell her.
Okay.
So, if it were me, I would have said, you need to get to the doctor, and not necessarily say, but I don't know what he did. But okay. He basically made a decision at that point. He did not want to use that gift. Oh. And so he, turned it off or set it aside or whatever. And occasionally I know he made use of it, but he basically, pulled the plug on it. But he was also very respectful. And because my mother was so plugged in, we had conversations over time. And I remember saying something, Sam, once, that my guide said this, and he said, honey, it's okay to tell me that, but don't tell anyone else. So I was very protected in that way.
Right.
And then as a young adult, as a teenager, I had read Edgar Cayce's work, mm-hmm. and then got involved in various spiritual groups where I learned a lot and studied until I came across the work of the Merkava. And the Merkava is this magical shape, that
yes.
And there is a very specialized meditation called I call it the 17 breath Merkava, or the original.
Okay.
And I have a funny label for it, and I call it is the original formula that was too good to abandon.
Oh, okay.
So people are still learning it, and I have on my website a wonderful video of how to learn it, so
awesome.
That you can learn it and do the original one, which is great.
Okay, I'm going to your website. I do want to learn that very much. Yes.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful meditation, and that really catapulted me, because I believe now in hindsight that what that did is help me build my 5D body, my 5D energy body, and then it's like putting on the costume. Right. And if I put on the costume of the Queen of England and I look like her, everybody's going to treat me like royalty. So when I wear the costume of the 5D human, everybody treats me like I'm a 5D'er. And the funny thing is, I'm treating everyone like a 5D'er. So it's fake it till you make it kind of a thing.
Yeah, the reason I'm smiling, I have to laugh because there are no coincidences. We know that. You just mentioned the Queen of England, and someone had just before I got on with you, someone had just sent me a video of the Queen of England's I guess, message to the world in alignment with the WHO, the World Health Organization. And the title of the subject line, when I was sent this by a friend, they want to take our kids away. And it was a message. It was a message from the Queen of England, and I just like 5 minutes ago listened, and then he was like the Queen of England. So it's like no coincidences.
That's
I'm
right,
like,
and not on our watch.
yeah. Well, I said, didn't America declare independence from the English throne in 1776? You know, so I'm like. So who cares what the Queen of England is saying? Really? And here, I mean, in England, I guess, they have the UK, but anyway, it's a crazy world, crazy but exciting, and that's why I'm so glad to have you, because we're heading to 5D, and I'm like you, I'm already there. I am in 5D right here and now. But yes, go ahead.
And I'm so proud of you that you're claiming it, because so many people don't realize that they can claim it and that they are already 5D.
Yes.
The earth is already transformed, and it's, waiting for enough of us to step up. So yes. In my case, I traveled and taught that work for close to 20 years.
Awesome.
And I traveled all over the world teaching it. And I've taught in 24 countries. And my books have been translated into 7 languages. So interacting with people for me was a very powerful way for me to grow my work, because in the moment when they would ask a question, the information would just flow through me. So it became an opportunity for me to get educated even more so than I was. Mm-hmm. So that cycle, and I was also doing a lot of reading and meditating. My number one resource was meditation.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of information through my guides and meditation. And then I think it was 1998, I received a message that I was being given a permanent guide and given access to a dimension that had been closed to humanity for eons. And that literally opened up a whole nother realm for me. And that's when I began working in the Akashic Records, as well as teaching the Merkava. Mm-hmm. Now, along the way, I developed a way to access your higher self and get accurate response. And that's a very logical way that I teach. Now, a lot of people say, well, you can't get into your higher self without going through your heart. And my response is, remember the movie Karate Kid, where this kid was doing all these chores?
Yes.
And he complained to the guy that he'd gone to learn karate.
Yes.
You got me doing all your dirty work and blah, blah, blah. And he said, yes, but you're in training. And then they showed this scene where every single move that he had been required to do the quote dirty work was actually preparing him, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So where I'm going with this, the reason I told that story, that we're doing all these moves, is what I discovered is when we would take the time to practice this tool, and it's super easy to learn, and it's called the Higher Self Connection or the Higher Self Challenge. What happens is you teach your ego to stand aside, because you're asking about stuff you don't care about. Mm-hmm. And you're developing your connection that becomes so strong that it becomes irrefutable. And I tell people, everybody says, oh, trust your intuition, but there's no benchmark. There's no way to do this. And there are thousands of people who want to have a connection, and they don't trust it. They get it, but then they don't trust it.
Exactly.
And the reason they don't trust it is because their ego is jumping in the middle and trying to help them. And when you go through this practice period of 6 weeks, where you work with your higher self on unimportant, insignificant questions, what happens is you get clarity. And that clarity moves you from trust to know. And I tell people, you know, the difference between trusting and knowing is simple. You trust that someone's going to meet you for lunch. You trust you're going to get that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
You know the sun is coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
So the idea of trust means that you expect something to happen, but there's also a possibility that it won't. But when you say, I know, blah, 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 it's absolute certainty.
Yes.
So we move from trusting the intuition and the guidance to knowing your higher self. And once you get familiar with that way your higher self connects with you, and you use simple signals to start with, just like when you learn a foreign language, you learn yes and no first, and then you learn other words.
Yes, I get you. I just wanted to just share with you my definition of knowing is belief on steroids. Because when I say that I know that I know that I know, it's an inner knowing, and all I can tell people, it's an inner knowing, but it's not a belief, it's a knowing.
Nice.
Yes.
Really nice.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, as I did this work, more and more knowledge came through. I kept really good journals. And,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing that I discovered about the Merkava is that this meditation is so powerful that it allows you to step into this place of knowing, even though you don't know how you know.
Yes.
And that's very impressive. So,
yes.
Yeah. And I want to remind your listeners that this month, the month of June, there is every month I have a free download on my website.
Okay.
It's always attached to the blog. You want to read the blog post and then pick up the free download.
Okay.
It makes more sense if you read the blog post first.
Okay.
And then you get the download. But this month I have a brand new meditation that has just come out called Opening Your Heart.
Oh,
and I call it the beta version because what I like to do is release it early for free, and then everyone gives me feedback, and then I make changes if needed.
Okay.
And then I put it on the shopping cart. Now, what's interesting is this meditation is so powerful that it really opens your heart and changes everything for you. It just changes the reality, steps you into 5D. And it does so in a way that is generic. So no matter what your belief system is, it does not interfere.
Yes.
And another big favorite meditation of mine right now is a meditation called Activating Your Sixth Sense, Opening the Golden Bowl. Okay. And what I want to say about all this work, for me, is like you, a kind of, opportunities of our education and understanding opened up, and then I use those in the next leveling up.
Right.
So, one of the things that I did early on was I started making meditations. And I originally did meditations because the meditations that I was buying, that maybe the content was good, but the voice quality wasn't good, or the background music didn't feel like it matched, or maybe there was no background music, and I was a music major in college, so I wanted to use those tools.
Right.
And I had the good fortune of getting software that I learned how to write music on the computer.
Okay.
And all those things kind of came together. And then I had one time when I was working with the Casey organization, I had a numerology reading from them. And I'm into numerology and astrology. And based on my birthday and all that information, they wrote me back and said I would be really good at making guided meditations for others.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So it kind of cracked me up because I already had like 8 or 9 of them in my my stable at that point.
And so that was a confirmation. That was a confirmation that you're on the right track. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then when I wrote this book, Waking Up in 5D,
yes,
I had been taking notes for years. This probably has 7 years worth of experiences in it.
Okay.
And I was so intensely writing, I kind of pulled back from teaching for a couple of years. And then after I wrote this book, then I got invited to China and Taiwan and Japan, and all the East Asia opened up. So now my books are translated into Chinese and lots of other languages, Russian, things like that. So it's very cool.
Now, before we, because I love, like I said, I found you I found you over a year ago, but then it came back to me when I was on Gaia TV and I was looking for something to watch, and I just typed in like 5D and I found you, and I was like, oh yes, I must have her on the show because of we're in the midst of this mass awakening. I know 5D is already here and we're both in it. So before we even get into that conversation of how people can wake up in 5D like we are, I want to kind of explain to them, well, what is 3D, what is 4D, what is 5D? Because I kind of did a short video about that a few weeks ago. Okay. So from your perspective.
So from my perspective.
Yes.
And this is something that I wrote about many times. And each time I wrote it, I released a little more information. So the first time I wrote about it, I put it in the book called Beyond the Flower of Life. And then in Waking Up in 5D, I knew it was going to go into Waking Up in 5D with a lot more detail. So there's a lot of this information is found in the book.
Okay.
3D is the polarity consciousness. 3D is the reality where we get to act and interact. we get to hurt and we get to heal.
Okay.
And 3D is like a proving ground. And in 3D, we're allowed to make the not God choice. And that sounds kind of funny, but when you put it into the next context, it's going to sound very clear. So the not God choice is all the stuff that we regret, all the stuff that we wish we didn't do, all the stuff that we wish other people wouldn't do. Okay. Those are all, quote, not God choices. 4D is the zone of a couple of things. It has the emotions are much stronger and much more intense. So a lot of big emotion occurs. And when you're in big emotion and we're having big emotional feelings, you're very often sliding into fourth dimension already. Okay. Fourth dimension vibrates faster than third dimension. And what I also want to explain is that dimensions are nested like Russian dolls. So because they're nested, when you're in 4D, you're still participating in 3D because you can see down. When you're in 3D, you can't see up to 4D. So when you move into this high emotional state, whether it's high love or high anxiety, your vibration shifts enough that you're now in fourth dimension. Now, fourth dimension is a transition zone, and it's a place where a lot of stuff happens, but it's not a place you want to hang out. So I kind of make the joke that 4D is like going to an airport.
Okay.
You don't want to go there to spend the night.
To stay, right.
You want to go there to get somewhere
someplace else, right. Yeah.
And of course, coming from New York, I'll say, it's like Grand Central. Nobody goes there to hang out. I mean, you might go there because there's an Apple store there now, but aside from that, you really don't want to go to the Grand Central Station to hang out. No. Right. So fourth dimension is very fast moving. When you're in a joyful state, it slides you right into 5. When you're in a down and depressed state, it pushes you down further. So in a way, the negative side, because it still has polarity, fourth dimension still has polarity. Yes. The negative emotions or the hurtful emotions pull you down faster, like quicksand. But the joyful emotions pull you up faster. Okay. So sliding with emotion is so important. This is why so many teachers who are teaching manifestation say, make sure you put your emotion into it. And what they're really saying is when you add emotion to any experience, either mental or physical, when you add emotion, you are amping it up. You are raising the frequency by adding your emotion, which is huge. Exactly. When you add frequency and you're in a high state, it slides you right up into 5th. Now, one of the ways I show this to people is if you're a musician or if you know your way around music, think of the scale of the normal major scale.
I teach piano. Just
okay, good. I knew it. I could feel there was piano in your background.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So the major chord 1 3 5 3 1. Okay, so third dimension, fifth dimension. Okay, now I'm going to sing for you, and I'm going to show you how 4 can make you slide down or up very easily. Right? Okay. 1 3 5 3 1. So we got that down.
Yes.
1 3 4 4 4 3. See how the ones that slide right down?
Yes.
4 4 4 5 5 1.
Yes. So
what we want to do is understand that when we're in fourth dimension, we slide down. It's simply a place to experience pain and suffering until we decide we're done.
Right.
So pain is not optional, suffering is.
Yes.
So we feel the pain and then we decide, okay, I can do better. I can step out of this. I am sliding back out.
Right.
And I'm step into my higher expression. So the emotion will drive it. The emotion will drive it. That's why the poor me thing or the pity party is so challenging, because when we get into that, we're pushing ourselves down.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it's a catch-22. The more you go with the, oh, poor me, I'm a victim, it just builds on it. It's like a catch-22. So it's like either you, yes, like it's quick, exactly. It pulls you down, that negative, and the same thing, the opposite, that higher vibration, that higher frequency pulls you up. So I always say it's a catch-22. So the more you focus on it, the more you're going to get it. So yes. So I totally agree that right now, especially in the times we're living in, 2020. Now, did you have, because I've been sharing with listeners now for about 8 months now, that 2020 is the year of clear vision, that I didn't know what, but I knew this year was gonna be a big year. And boy, it started much earlier than I thought. So what were your thoughts before we came into 2020, about 2020?
Well, it's very interesting. I generally don't think too much about the future in precise terms because it pulls me out of the present.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
So I was more conscious that we were getting ready to be in what I call pullback kind of energy. And the pullback is reassessing, reevaluating, regrouping. And part of that is introspection and research and study.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then you look at the energy of the two 20s together. And of course, it reminds us of the eye doctor thing. You have 2020.
Yes. And I don't think that's a coincidence. The 2020, because I listen to a lot of channeled information. And early on, well, mid 2019, I was hearing 2020 is the year of clear vision. And then and my spirit was saying, 2020, you go to the eye doctor, you have clear vision. I'm like, okay, that's not, to me, my spirit was saying, no, that's not a coincidence. Nothing is. So yes, 2020.
So it is the opportunity for all of us to step into our power.
Yes.
So many people say I have to, and that's one of the things that I talk about in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That, one of the fastest ways that you can regain your power and your autonomy and your stepping away from, quote, the man in the organization is to stay in your power. And one of the ways you do that is you step away from the have to phrase. I have to pick up the kids. I have to meet my honey. I have to get this report done for work. I have to get the house cleaned. I have to do the laundry. No, you don't. You don't have to anything.
Exactly.
And instead, own it. So I'm having dinner with my honey. I need to take off. I promised my boss I'd get this report done. I want to be on time.
Right.
My kids love it when I'm on time. They don't like it when they're the last ones to be picked up. There's lots of ways to announce I'm changing the vibe here, because there's a shift in energy when you used to use that word.
Yes.
Shift of energy. I'm choosing to do something different. When we say I have to, we're literally putting our energy out in front of us somewhere for anyone to grab. And they do. Anyone's grab it all the time.
Yes.
So when we step into our power by giving up the I have to, what we end up with is we're fraction by fraction elevating our divine essence and aligning it with who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes us more open to really know and understand what's really going on. And it's kind of like that can of worms, that the lids come off. And that's kind of what you were talking about. I have a very high interest in politics and what's going on, but I never discuss it in terms of the spirituality because it doesn't matter to me. And yeah, you're going to say the same thing.
Yes.
And when people complain to me about this person or that person, I'll say to them, well, if that person were my son, whether he's a teenager or an adult, and I told you some sorry story, you'd say, I'll say a prayer for them.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not praying for the people that we're mad about?
Exactly. And then I always say that also, because I bring everything back to the fact that nothing is separate. That person that you think did the worst thing in the world is not separate from you. Like you said, think of that person as your child, as a relative, because that person isn't separate. When you really know that no one is separate, you can only just shine light and love and compassion towards that person. You don't have to do it physically. You don't have to be in the same space as that person, but you can still send that person love and light because you know that person is a divine being, a divine soul, just like you are. Making different choices than you would, but still, you honor their divinity when you do that.
And it's interesting because we have so much pressure to conform, and pressure to participate in the reality the way everyone's telling us we, quote, should. And I don't watch network news, but
haven't in 19 years.
Someone showed a clip where there were like 5 different newscasters over the course of a 2-week period who were saying the same thing.
Exact same words.
And it was astounding. You need to get your news from us. And I thought,
I think I saw that same clip you're talking about. Yes.
Says who? Yes. So going back to what's really going on right now with the virus, of course, my partner, my husband, it's like, I'm not wearing a mask, and I know it's not necessary, blah, 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 he's got this thing. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to wear one because I don't want to stand out as a troublemaker.
Okay.
I'm already, and this is something that I'm very clear about. I have a mission to deliver training and help.
Right.
Everyone who wants to learn how to be their divine self. That's my mission. That's my number one mission, to help people evolve and be more plugged in.
Yes.
So knowing that, I also know that I'm not one of the ones who need to be picketing or storming the State House or any of that stuff.
Right.
Not because I don't agree with them.
Exactly.
If I go do that, then I won't be able to do what I do. So I choose to take a neutral stance on that. But because I have a passion and an empathy for those people, we decided that instead of wearing a mask because we're supposed to,
right,
we're wearing masks because it's a fashion statement.
Okay. Now,
and the fashion statement sounds proactive, just like, we're wearing a certain color because it's all the rage, or we're wearing a certain hairdo because it's all the rage. And so that makes us laugh, because now we're not doing it because we, quote, have to.
Right.
Because we want to fit in. We want to look like all the other New Yorkers.
I got you. I hear what you're saying, and I am not wearing a mask, but I'm not protesting and out there, and I'm very much for those people that protest. I'm not a protester in that sense, because everything for me is energy. And when you push against something, you just make it stronger. So I have more power to them that are protesting. You know what I did? I had a wonderful conversation with a store manager. I called because I live alone. I have to go shopping. I am not wearing a mask. So I called the store manager, and he said, well, if you have health issues, you don't have to wear a mask for health issues. Now, and he said health. I'm glad he said the word health, not medical. because I actually have heard many doctors are speaking up and saying, actually, it's not wise, the mask, because if you're healthy, to keep your immune system healthy, you need to be exposed. Right. And actually wearing a mask actually will lower your immune system. 2 doctors, and that video was taken down from YouTube, so I hope they don't take this down. I don't think they will. I don't have a big enough follower. I noticed that they take it down when it gets a lot of views. But anyway, but doctors have said that if you're healthy, to keep your immune system healthy, you don't wear a mask. So that's a health reason. So I made a little sign. I wear this sign that says, for health reasons, I can't wear a mask. Nobody says anything to me because I have this sign around my neck.
Well, I love it. I think that's fabulous. And it puts people's, puts them a little bit at ease.
Yes.
And why are people fussing at the people who aren't wearing masks? Is because I have to wear a mask. Why don't you have to? You see, it goes back to the have to thing. So then, as we decided we were wearing masks for the fashion
reasons, yes.
Fashion reasons.
You took away the have to.
We want to look like other New Yorkers,
Yes.
Then I decided that anybody who doesn't wear a mask, I approve of with great love and appreciation because they're willing to stand out.
Yes. So, the thing that. So wearing that sign that I made, and I like that I wear the sign so I don't have to say to people, why I'm not wearing it. It's right. I'm wearing a sign. And so I feel like I don't stand out because I'm wearing the sign, and then they don't I don't get any funny looks. I put on my sign, I go into a store, and it's all good. And I feel like, because to me, it was a human rights, it was a constitutional rights thing. And I'm like, I am not handing over my constitutional rights like that. I'm just not. So, and I said, okay. And then someone, even a cashier, said to me yesterday, that's a smart thing. When she pointed to my sign, that's a smart thing. So nobody can say, and it is every word of it is true. For my physical health, for my spiritual health, and for my mental health, I can't wear a mask. It is completely true.
I wouldn't use the word can't. I choose not to wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
And then you sign as you.
But if I say choose, then people are going to say, wait, that's.
You could simply say for health reason, I don't wear a mask.
Okay. Okay, I get what you're saying, because wording is important. Yeah. For health reason, I don't wear a mask. Okay, I like that. Okay. Right. Yes.
So, yeah, that's fabulous. And it reminds me of a very funny story, a very funny conversation I had with a guy years and years ago.
Okay.
And I was complaining to him. He was not my boyfriend, but he was a good friend. And I made some remark about the fact that I didn't like the fact that this woman who was presenting something we were at was exposing so much of her cleavage. Oh. And I felt that it was a distraction.
Okay.
Some people find that very sexy.
I don't. I actually hate cleavage. You will never. Sometimes I
find it so sexy, I don't want to see it.
Okay. Honestly, I got to tell you this. I think cleavage looks like a butt on a chest. That's what I think,
I'll have to change it for me. Okay.
I do that.
So this gets funnier. So, I now realize in hindsight, if a woman, especially if she's overweight, that may be the one thing she has that she thinks is attractive, so she wants to emphasize it. Okay, so that's all good. So, the man who's my friend, not afraid to give it to me right back, said, well, you're just jealous. And I started to laugh. And I said, no, I've got a pretty good set of my own. I'm not jealous. And he said, no, that's not what I meant. He said, you're jealous because she's willing to do that and get all that attention, and you are not. And I went, whoa, I think you're right. Yeah, so that's the same thing. When somebody doesn't wear the mask and you're looking at them, you're quote, jealous or angry or it's not fair kind of energy.
Right.
This whole idea that it's required. Somebody else said we have to do it. How come we get an exception, And so the benefit of changing how you look at things and how you name it allows you to stay in your power. And that's really what this
Yes,
is.
and exactly what you're saying, though. It's all about the power. It's all about your thoughts around it. Like for me, the first day I made, because I had like I said, I had a lovely conversation with the store manager. It wasn't like with this anger, like I'm not going to wear a mask. It was a very lovely conversation, and he kind of told me exactly what to do without quote unquote telling me.
And was this on the phone or was this in person?
No, on the phone. I called him. I called him on the phone and spoke to the store manager where I wanted to go shopping. So I called him, and it was he understood where I was coming from. And so the next day when I was about to go to the store, I'm thinking, oh, every time I walk into a store, I have to explain to people. And I didn't want to do that. So that's where I came up with the idea of making the sign.
I love it.
And so I made the sign, and I took one of, when you go to the conferences, you get this, I save all of my badges from conferences. So I took a badge from one of my conferences and stuck a little note in there on both sides. So when it flips, you still see it. And I felt so empowered by doing that. And nobody looked at me funny. Nobody said anything. And I felt like I am doing me and keeping my power, and it's okay with everybody, which in a sense, it doesn't have to be okay with everybody, but it was. So that made it even better. Yes.
So I wonder what would happen if you added the sign, donations accepted.
I don't know. But no, I never felt so more empowered, because I admire the people and I see now there are a lot of people protesting and storming state houses and not wearing the mask. And, I saw this one girl, I found all these pictures, and I saw this one young girl that has a sign with a picture of a mask and an X through it, and a teenager. And I'm like, oh, more power to them.
Exactly.
But that I feel it's so important that everybody listening does what is in their heart and soul, that makes them feel empowered, right, without feeling like they're going against anything within, because to me, I didn't want to be like,
you didn't want to ruffle feathers.
Right. I didn't really want to ruffle feathers, but I didn't want to hand over my power either, my rights either. So, and it worked out. Yeah, it worked out perfectly. Cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
So now share with everybody that 5D feeling, knowing I know every morning, let me share with you what I say to myself every morning, especially now. I empower myself. I say, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am a sovereign, divine being of light. I am free. I am free. I am free. I am in the fifth dimension. I like to say when I'm giving my affirmation, I like to say the fifth dimension, not just 5D. Because I don't want the universe to say, well, what is 5D? So I say, I'm in the fifth dimension now. I am here. I am here. I am here. Behold, I make all things new. So that's why I say that first thing in the morning. I say that last thing at night. So
I just love it. And I say in evenings, I'm waking up in 5D. So
okay.
That's very, very powerful. And I share with you the idea that when we claim it, we make it so. And when we claim our right to be sovereign, it's huge, because we have been misled and misinformed so much that we're waking up to not only our spirituality, but to the lies that we've been told all around us. And the most important thing for each and every person who's part of your audience is to understand that their job isn't just to be in outrage over the lies we've been told, but to help others shift their consciousness. And one of the things that came through when I was teaching people about no more karma, because we kind of stopped at 4D when we were talking and didn't really get into what's 5D.
Okay.
5D is this energy that I call heaven on earth. And so when a person says, well, what is fifth dimension? I'll say it's everything that the traditional religions have taught us is heaven.
Yes.
So you have the ability to be plugged into God, you have the ability to affect the reality around you, and you can create loving relationships, and you have the power to influence the world that you're in. So when you say, I am asking for a day of heaven on earth,
yes,
for me and everyone I come in contact with, what you're doing is elevating yourself and everyone around you. And that's really powerful to claim that as a phrase.
yes.
So along this same continuum, back in 94, I was told that there was no more karma. And this was really before people were talking about becoming fifth dimensional, although I was getting that information. And so when this information came in that there was no more karma, I shared it with some really good friends of mine who had studied with me and were also devout Buddhists. And it didn't sit well with them. They were kind of like, how can that be? And I remember saying, I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out, but I know it's so. Because again, the channel is clear.
Yes.
So over the years, what I began to understand is when we decide and accept this fact that there is no more karma, what we're doing is we're making it okay to not be in lockdown. Because, we're in lockdown physically, but we've been in lockdown emotionally and spiritually for even longer.
For centuries. Yes, yes, yes.
Only the physical lockdown that's making us think, wait a minute, I'm being locked down in every category.
Exactly.
So when we are keeping score, when we're looking at some guy who's, robbed a bank or done something horrible, and then we look at ourselves, well, I don't do that. How come if there's no more karma, they don't have to pay for their stuff? But the truth is, when you move to 5D, you don't care about any of that because you recognize that it's a game and that we can step out of that game into a brand new whatever. And it's like complaining that, let's say you live in a broken down house and you finally leave it, and then the person in the house next door, that house gets abandoned and some squatter moves in. And so you say, well, it's not fair. They didn't even buy that house. But then your wife says, or your husband says, but wait a minute, we're in this gorgeous house. Who cares what happened over there?
Yeah,
And it's kind
exactly.
of like that. So this channeled message came through when I was teaching in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. And it's a quote that I use to help people understand. And Sana Kumara said this. He said, the game, and he was referring to the 3D polarity game.
Yes.
The game is over when there are no more players. Will you be the first to leave or the last?
That is so true. I think of it as the 3D matrix, and it is a game. And I believe that everybody is playing a role, a game, a play. Everybody's playing a role. And like we have the dark side playing their role perfectly. They're playing their role. They're playing a role. We're the ones of light, the star seeds and the way showers and the light workers. We're playing our role. They're playing a role. We're playing a role. And when you see that it's just a role and you can step out of it and you can shine your light. Because I always say, to me, a 4D thought is it's light versus dark. I don't say it's light versus dark. It's light to transform the dark. Because we all came from source. We all came from the light. So the dark is playing a role. And we're light. We remember who we are. So now we have to shine that light on the dark to transform the dark back to light where it originally came from. So yes, 5D is heaven on earth. Yes. Yes, it is.
Yep. I used to try and rattle people a little bit by saying, well, when they give the Academy Awards for good and evil, Satan's going to get the first one.
Because he played a great one. Oh boy, yeah, played a good role. Yes, he did.
Really?
Yes, played a great role.
And as long as there's polarity, then we're in lockdown.
Yes.
Because when we use polarity to compare ourselves to someone else, we've slid back down into 3D. So one of the ways that I teach people in the book how to stay in 5D is to start to notice what you're noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, then you're more aware of when you're stepping out of your place of harmony and joy. It's pretty hard to notice when you're in 5D because you're blissed out and you're not noticing, oh gosh, I'm in 5D. Because the minute you do that,
Right.
you'll slide back into 3 because you are now making comparison
Right.
of yourself to yourself.
Right.
So it isn't until after you've slid back into 3D that you go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And you realize. And so when you decide to be 5D, you can actually use certain words that help you stay that way. So I encourage people to, remember certain words and claim those words. So instead of that have to business, I say to people, well, I choose, I prefer, it pleases me, makes me happy. I won't, I can't, I should. Again, another word to abandon. Instead, I discover I like it this way. Betrayed, that's a big one for people. I had a loss. And now it's an opportunity for me to understand it.
Yes.
Right and wrong. I champion your right to hold that belief as long as it pleases you. I see it as a choice. When someone says, well, that was really bad. And I see it as a choice.
Right.
This doesn't please me right now for wrong. I decide to like something in the present moment, even if it's a new idea or this is a good one. It's a match for me. That doesn't make it good or bad. It's just a match.
Right. Neutral.
And that pulls us away from the polarity words. So there's a lot of words that we use that lock us into polarity. And once we realize that, and we can choose, in fact, this is so interesting. I just opened this to the page where it says, what keeps you locked in time? And I'm thinking, yeah, we've been locked down and we've been locked down and we've been locked down,
Yes.
So, I was told by my guides that there are 5 things that keep us locked into the mass consciousness 3D matrix. And you know this: coffee in the morning, news in the morning, either via the newspaper or the television.
I like my coffee. I haven't watched news in 19 years, but I like my coffee.
Stay with me.
Okay.
So weather prediction, like do you have a weather app on your phone? And going to work at the same time. Okay. So now the coffee thing, what I tell people is just shake it up. Do something different some days. Don't be in this mode that coffee is going to make my day or not make my day. Do not let that happen. Because when we align, especially with the news or a football game or a big event that's being made available, what happens is we're being pulled along with the masses and we're being spoon-fed something.
Yes.
We don't even know we're being spoon-fed.
Right.
And for example, at the Super Bowl game earlier this year, there were a lot of people who put out videos that explained the misuse of rituals and how they were being used to program people and to, I'll call it, numb us or neutralize us. So if you see it enough times, it becomes, to quote, your normal.
Yes.
And what I've said to people is, we all have things that we're used to, words we're accustomed to saying. And when we step back from that and we can notice that we're using that word and it doesn't serve us anymore, it allows us to step up even higher. So
yes,
those 5 things are ways that we can unhook from the mass consciousness programming that's being shoved at us.
Yes. Well, I agree with, it was a direct order from my higher self in 2001, September, shortly after September 9/11, my higher self, now normally our higher self is always whispering to us, and most of the times we're ignoring it. This time my higher self yelled at me, said, turn off that news and don't ever turn it back on. And at that time I had no idea why. I had no idea, and I didn't find out until 11 years later as to why, because of the programming of the news. But I was obedient. I even said aloud, why? And I turned it off and have never turned it back on.
Well,
So,
you're an interesting example, because most people proactively are seeking their higher self. And it sounds to me like you connected with your higher self in a different way, and you have such a powerful connection that you were able to hear this in a really loud and clear voice. My higher self gave me a very clear direction right before 9/11 to go home on September 10th from New York City instead of.
I've heard you say that. Yes. Yes.
So,
yes.
I get that. But what's interesting to me is you chose to follow your higher self. You didn't, quote, obey.
Yes, right, right,
Okay.
right. True,
And,
true.
you know, it's just like a woman who is in partnership with her beloved. When the beloved says, I hate it when you wear that dress, I don't like how you look in it. You don't have to get rid of the dress, but
Right.
it might please you to do it because you love them and you want to please them, and you don't really care that much one way or the other.
Exactly.
So going back to the why question, the reason I bring this up is because when we ask why, we're in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
When we ask what is going on, we're in 5D.
Okay.
So that's another thing that I train people. Once you have this higher self connection and you're working with it on a regular basis, there's no reason to ask why.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing to ask is what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found is that the what question is completely open-ended. The why question asks so that you can solve it. So you can know something and then take a certain action. Why are the cookies gone from the cookie jar? When were the cookies eaten? Who ate the cookies? Like that is so that you can, go to the child and, take action.
Yes.
When you say, what's going on? The cookies are missing.
Yes.
You might get a whole different piece of information that you didn't know. And that's powerful, very, very powerful. So when you catch yourself asking why, it's because there's the ego need to know so we can solve it. The ego wants to help and wants to solve it. So why did I burn the toast? Well, because I left it in the toaster too long.
Mm-hmm.
Why are the cookies too sweet? Well, because I put too much sugar in it. Next time I won't put so much sugar in it. And so the why seeks to collect data so we can then use our ego to solve it.
Exactly.
Very powerful once we begin to understand the use of these questions that we ask.
Exactly. The subtleness of it. Yes, but
that's why I'm sure you didn't get an answer, did you?
No, I didn't. No, not at all. I didn't.
In that moment, you would not have understood the why.
Exactly. And like I said, I didn't know why until 11 years later. But I was completely obedient. When I say obedient, it's like with my relationship with my higher self, I know has been from childhood. And I didn't know to call it that at that time. I was always, quote unquote, the black sheep of the family, because if it didn't resonate with me, I'm like, no. It's like I was sent to Catholic school. We weren't Catholic. I was sent to Catholic school for 6 years. We had religion every day. And I was brought up in a strict home where my dad said, children are to be seen and not heard. So even though what I was hearing did not resonate with me, I couldn't ask questions as a child. I just had to pretty much sit and take it and but I still knew, well, when I get older, I'm gonna look into this because this is not making sense, I had to say that, under my breath or in my head, but from childhood, it was me and my higher self were like this, and I'm going with my higher self. And now I know it was the right thing to do. I didn't know at the time, what I was doing. I was just following.
That's very cool. I also sent my children to Catholic school, even though I didn't raise them as Catholic. I grew up Catholic, but I was way beyond it by the time I had children.
Right.
But I still elected to send my children to Catholic school. And once they reach a certain age, I gave them the choice. Do you want to stay in the Catholic school or do you want to go to public school? No, we're staying. We're staying here.
Okay.
So that was cool.
But it was, so for me, like I said, normally it's just a feeling and I go with that feeling. And it's always led me exactly where, and now I know what it is. I didn't know at the time. But like I said,
Very cool.
when
Very, very cool.
yeah, when spirits had turned it off, and I didn't know until many years later. Oh,
Right.
okay, that's why you wanted me to turn it off. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yes.
Very, very, very cool.
So the only thing I have to work on that list is the coffee.
What I would recommend is that you start trying coffee substitutes, but just try like one a week.
Okay.
And
Green tea, I know, is supposed to be very good for you.
green tea is very good, but
Yes.
it's not going to give you the lift coffee does. But there are coffee substitutes that will give you the lift you're looking for.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, pace it. So you have maybe tea in the morning, and then you have coffee at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Or you rotate in ways that you don't always follow the same routine.
Okay.
And what that does is tells the universe, like you do with your sign,
Yes.
I'm aware of what you're telling me. I'm aware of the rules. I'm not playing.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. 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 I got you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
And
in
coffee, a half a cup of coffee will actually improve your meditation.
Oh,
But
okay.
it stops with a half a cup.
Okay.
It moves your consciousness. You see, so your spine is here, and your pranic tube is right in front of it.
Okay.
And with a cup of coffee, it moves your consciousness from here into your pranic tube.
Okay.
But when you have a full cup, you move beyond.
So when you say a half a cup, because normally I have a mug, which is like, the mug is like at least 12 ounces. So
Wow.
when you say, but it's actually, I put a lot of cream in, I use stevia. I put a lot of organic stevia and not cream from a cow, but almond
Cream? Oh, almond.
almond cream. So I'll use almond creamer and organic stevia. So
That's delicious.
yes. So when you say a half a cup, so how much in ounces of cup? So should I use just 4 ounces of coffee? Okay, I can do that. I could do that. A half a cup. I could do that. Yeah.
And then you have more coffee later. But what you're doing, what you want to do is be aware that everybody's like doing that morning cup of coffee.
Yes.
And that you have jumped on that wave
Mm-hmm.
when you have to have your morning coffee. So when you look at that and say, okay, I'm going to skip it today and I'm just going to have carrot juice and whatever, you're unhooking from the mass consciousness streaming that is going at us.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I got you. I can do that. Matter of fact, I know, because like I had said to you before we started to record, the last 7 weeks, all I've been doing is putting on weight. I'm actually going to go on a cleanse, which eliminates the coffee for 10 days.
Nice.
Yes. I'm going to go on a juice, just organic juice cleanse, and herbal teas, clear, healthy liquids, lots of water, herbal tea, and organic juice.
Nice.
I'm going to do that for 10 days, starting tomorrow.
Fabulous.
I need to, I really do, and get back to exercising every day. And now hopefully the weather stops acting funny, out of the normal. I'm going to be doing more walking. That's my favorite type of exercise, is just walking in the sunshine. I live out in the mountains in the country, so we have lots of places to walk. So that's what
Cool.
we start doing.
Very cool.
Yes.
It's been a total pleasure to speak with you.
Yes, please share. But share more for our listeners how they can get in 5D. Like we said, 5D is heaven on earth, and in every now moment. I liked what you said about not thinking too much about the future, because it takes you out of the now. And I just recently saw a science video. I'm very into quantum physics. I just saw a science video that shows scientifically all there is the now. And the now affects not only the future, but it also affects the past. Now, they have proven this scientifically. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they did it, but I trust that as knowing that all there is the now. And it's this now moment is where we hold our power. One of my favorite books is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it's the power. So share with us how our listeners can be in that 5D now
Well,
moment.
one of the things that is helpful to remember is that whatever we're thinking about in this moment, we're also like filling our consciousness with it. So it's there and it's sitting there waiting to be activated, if you will. So the way to stay in the now is to say what you're grateful for. I'm grateful for what I have right now.
Yes.
And then, you know, sometimes I tell people, tell a joke, you know, because laughter opens up
Yes.
and keeps you present to now.
Yes.
And I think, you know, thinking about the future is a normal activity so long as it doesn't overwhelm us or fill us with fear.
Exactly.
And that's partly what happens to people.
Yes.
So staying in the now is allowing yourself to know with certainty that the future is assured.
Yes.
And the future is assured. And once we recognize that, then we give ourselves permission to step into mastery that we know we are capable of.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And I like what you said. I'm glad you mentioned the word fear, because that, for me, and what I've been saying since day one, before the lockdown, since mid-February, I've been saying that this is a fear pandemic, more so than a virus pandemic. I mean, I truly believe that the masses are in a state of fear. And when you're in a state of fear, you're handing over your power. Like when you were saying that, when you say, I have to, you're handing over your power. But when you say, when you're sitting there in a state of fear, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm so afraid, you're just giving all of your innate power away to those who want to manipulate you. So that is when you own your power. Know how powerful you are and don't give it away by being in a state of fear. Is so important, especially now. Yes, yes, yes.
So I'm going to encourage the audience to, one of the ways to stay out of fear is to get in a place of unconditional love in your heart.
So true. So true. Unconditional love is so important. It's the key. That's, to me, what oneness is all about. It's unconditional love, non-judgment, unconditional non-judgment of the other, because you see that other as an aspect of you and an aspect of God. My term for God is all that is. There's nothing outside of God. So when you know it, like I said, the knowing, it's like, and people will say, well, how do you know? I know. It's an internal knowing that there's no words for. It's like, I know, just like breathing. Like for my body to stay here in this physical realm, I have to breathe. So just like I know that I am a divine sovereign. I use the word sovereign a lot now. I am a sovereign, divine being of light. Nothing. What does God, and I say, what does God have to fear? When you know you are an aspect, that holographic aspect, meaning you are all of God in a drop. Like Rumi said, you're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. When you know you are all of God in a drop, what does God have to fear? Nothing. So, oh, this has been so wonderful. And when we were out of lockdown, I'm not far from New York. We have to get together. Yes, yes. I am only an hour and a half from the city. So nice. Whenever we're out of lockdown, we're going to keep in touch.
Sounds great. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Now, before you go, please share with our listeners how they can find you and follow you and get some of your meditations and your books and all of that. Share.
Okay. So my website is MaureenSt.com, MaureenStGermain.com. You can find my books on Amazon. When we're out of lockdown, you can buy them in the bookstores. All the bookstores carry them. The Waking Up in 5D did win an award, so it's an award-winning book. It was named the best-selling book in America
Awesome.
back in 2019 when it came out.
Awesome.
And let's see, the newest book is called The Akashic Records, Opening the Akashic Records, and it's a very powerful book because it's step-by-step how to do it for yourself, and it gives a lot of information on what to experience. I also have many guided meditations. In the month of June, the guided meditation is Opening Your Heart. And I always ask people to please get the Divine Government meditation. And this is because I really want us to encourage us to pray for our government, pray for our leaders, to help them make the very best decisions they can make.
Yes.
And those are free.
Yes.
So, and if you miss the opportunity because you're listening to this later,
Yes.
then there'll be a different free one. And
Yes.
then you will just buy the new one, that one I'm talking about now, about opening your heart. And if you're looking to build your connection and to have a great connection like Carolyn has, I highly recommend you learn your higher self connection. And I do have a protocol for that. And also get the meditation called Activating Your Sixth Sense, Golden Bowl meditation.
Okay.
Very powerful, very helpful.
And also the Merkava?
Yes. I teach a lot of Merkava information.
Merkava.
I taught it for over 20 years, probably over 15,000 students. And I have written a couple of books about it. One book that I wrote as a follow-up book to the meditation is called Beyond the Flower of Life.
Okay.
And it is a wonderful tool to help you begin to understand how powerful meditating is and why it's so important that each of us do some form of meditation. The Merkava meditation itself, which is what we're talking about, only takes 5 minutes to do.
Oh.
It takes a weekend to learn, or maybe 4 to 8 hours to learn it.
Okay.
And then you just do it every day. It takes 5 minutes to do, and at some point it becomes permanent. It's very powerful.
Awesome. Awesome. I definitely want to start. I've been trying to meditate. I have been meditating more. That I have been eating more and meditating more. So I've been putting on weight, which is going to come to an end starting tomorrow. But I definitely want to learn that. Am I saying it right? Merkava. Merkava.
Yeah. And learning the Merkava is super easy. It takes 5 minutes to do. And anybody who has monkey mind and you've had trouble with meditation, this is the meditation for you, because it takes you step by step. And the process is so powerful that monkey mind is no longer an issue.
Awesome. Very, very good. Thank you so much. This has been such a great show. I'm so thankful that you've been my guest, and I'm so glad you're not that far that we could actually meet in person one day when we're not in lockdown anymore.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, because I don't know about going to New York with my sign.
There you go. Well, you won't need it when we finally get together.
When we do get together, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This has been great. Much love. Namaste for now.
Thank you.
Hey, that was a great conversation with Maureen. Waking up in 5D. If you understand that the fifth dimension and every dimension is vibrational. You get there from the vibration that you hold within your being. So the journey to the fifth dimension is an inward journey. And it actually is here. And you can be in the fifth dimension here and now, just by how you feel and the vibration that you are sending out to the world. So I invite everyone to join me in the fifth dimension. On my website, you can find that I am offering a free mentoring session for anyone interested in a free mentoring session with me. Just check me out on Awake, the number 2, onenessradio.org. Let me know that you're interested in a mentoring session. Also on my website, you'll see that I'm hosting a monthly Zoom meeting, and that this month it will be Thursday, May 28th at 8 p.m. And if you're interested, just email me and I will send you the link to that meeting. Also on my website, there are a list of holistic events that you can sign up for. I am completely holistic. I encourage everyone to at least look into holistic ways of staying healthy. And so there's a list. The list changes every week. So, but it's usually about 5 to 6 events that you might be interested in on my website. And also, to help support Awake to Oneness Radio, pledges of $1 to $5 a month is greatly appreciated. Just help support the channel. I basically do everything nonprofit, and it's something I'm doing from my heart to inspire. And I say the word inspire because all I can do is inspire another to go within, tap into the truth that is within you, and live your truth. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Namaste to all. Much love. Bye-bye.